Hi folks, now we're going to use the cosine law to find missing sides and angles in the context of some review questions. So let's get down to that now. So these are sort of sample questions you might see on a test or an exam. So we're going to use the cosine law to find sides, cosine law to find angles. Here we go. So the first question says we want to find the length of side C over here given that this angle is 77. So that's got to be our angle C. A and B don't matter which one is which, as long as we're consistent with our sides and our angles using the same letter. And then if we're looking for side C, the cosine law has to look like this. A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of angle C. So then we're going to fill in what we know. So we have C squared equals 25 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times 25 times 29 times the cosine 77 degrees. So C squared will be equal to 25 squared. I'm going to do this one step at a time here to make sure that we do our order of operations right. So I'm pretty sure that's 841 and 625. Now this last bit, I'm going to multiply all that stuff together before I can add or subtract, because the order of operations I have to be careful about. And I'm making sure I write down all these steps here, because when I know from previous experience that a lot of times those are the places where my students get hang-ups with this thing. Mixing up order of operations with calculators and stuff. So this is about what we have for C squared now. So then all I have to do is put all that together. So I get 625 and 841. I have to subtract 326 because that came out to be 0.18. That came out to be a negative number. And it gives me 1139.8-ish. So this is about 1139.8. And you might be deceived into thinking that D is the correct answer, but notice that all we found so far is C squared. We have to get C by taking the square root of all that business. So we get 1139.8, and then C actually comes out to be about the square root of that junk, which is 33.8. Aha, now we have a much better answer, 33.8 units, and that's the value B for the correct answer. These other two distractors, what they usually do for those is they'll get you to everything will set up, and even if you do all this stuff right but you use like sine instead of cosine by mistake, you'll get one of the right answers. Ugh, and it's not really correct, it's just a distractor. Gross. And notice they gave you one where you forget the square root. It's almost like you're trying to get fooled up here. Just be careful. Make sure all your steps are correct. Okay, so in this case we're looking for an angle. I like to call, if they don't tell me what to call it already, I like to call it C because it's the way I remember it best. So all the other sides and angles don't really matter, again, as long as we're consistent with how we label the triangle. So I'm going to say that cosine of angle C is equal to A squared plus B squared minus C squared. And notice again that we're allowed to use this because I know all three sides in the triangle. So side, side, side allows me to find any angle with cosine law. So then cosine of angle theta, which is what we're after here, is going to be 28 squared plus 39.8 squared minus 37 squared, all divided by 2 times AB, so 28 times 39.8. And I'm going to do numerator and then denominator here to get the cosine ratio. So the numerator is 28 squared plus 39.8 squared minus 37 squared, and that works out to be 999.04. So I get 999.04 there. So I don't forget that decimal. And in the denominator, I have 2 times 28 times 39.8. Sometimes students try to type all that in their calculator and they forget, if they do it all in one step, they forget to put brackets around all of that. If you do that, it'll end up multiplying the last two instead of dividing. So be very careful. Sometimes it's better to take your time and do it in a couple steps here. So we got 2228.8. So to get my angle theta, so there's what I get when I evaluate. To get theta, all I have to do is take the inverse cosine on my magic calculator of 999.04 divided by 2228.8, and hopefully we'll get an answer here. So I'm taking inverse cosine or second function or shift or whatever your calculator says, 999.04 divided by 2228.8, and we've got, looks like 63.4 degrees, and that sounds like a very reasonable answer to me for a nice acute triangle, a cute little triangle. So there's our answer. And so just remember all the things we do. Make sure you label and check the pattern, set up the equation, evaluate the expression, and use lots of steps if you're making mistakes. just to make sure you don't get things wrong. Same stuff, only in the end, here we take a square root for a side or use the inverse for an angle. Great stuff.